someone has been rehearsing, not out loud, not with anyone else present, in the specific privacy of their own mind, in the quiet spaces between everything else they are supposed to be doing, in the middle of the night when sleep has abandoned them and the only available company is their own thoughts and the persistent, uncomplicated fact of you in those thoughts. They have been rehearsing what they would say if they had the chance to say it, the words they would choose, the way they would begin, the specific thing they would want you to understand first before anything else, the thing that matters most, the thing that everything else in what they want to say depends on landing correctly. What they keep coming back to in every version of every rehearsal is something disarmingly simple. Two words that do not require eloquence or perfect timing or the right circumstances, just the willingness to finally say them out loud after everything that has happened. Start over. Not pretend none of it happened. Not erase the history between you and build something naive and unreal on top of its absence. Start over with the full knowledge of what happened, with both the weight and the wisdom of it, with eyes open to what was difficult and genuine about where things went wrong, and with the specific, deliberate choice to try again anyway. Not despite what happened, because of what it revealed about what is actually between you, which is something that has proven itself more durable than the circumstances that challenged it. That is what they want you to know, and they are still working up to saying it directly. But the preparation is further along than you may realize. Let me show you what the cards confirmed. Let me describe what I felt the moment I opened this energy, because the first impressions were immediate and they carried a quality I want to name before we go any further into the cards themselves. I felt determination, not the anxious, unsettled determination of someone who is not sure whether what they are trying to do is the right thing. The specific, grounded, quietly absolute determination of someone who has sat with a decision long enough that the uncertainty has burned off, and what remains is simply the clear knowledge of what they want and the committed orientation toward getting there. This is someone who has moved past the deliberation phase. What remains is the doing. I also felt something that I want to be precise about because I think it matters for how you receive this reading. I felt genuine feeling, not strategy, not the calculated calculation of someone who wants something practical that you represent. The specific, warm, slightly uncomfortable quality of someone who simply cannot make themselves stop caring about you, regardless of how many reasons they have assembled for why it would be simpler to do so. And the discomfort is not the discomfort of reluctance. It is the discomfort of vulnerability, of someone who knows that what they are about to offer is real enough to be genuinely lost if it does not land the way they are hoping. The first card in this reading arrived in the position representing the decision this person has made, and I want to describe its imagery carefully because everything in it speaks to the quality of what they are bringing. This card shows a young figure holding a cup extended outward on horseback, moving in a direction that feels both deliberate and unhurried. The quality of someone who has something to offer and is moving toward the person they want to offer it to without the frantic urgency of someone who is afraid of the journey, but with the specific steady warmth of someone who is confident in the destination. The water element of this suit governs feeling, genuine emotional connection, the interior life in its most authentic expression. And the court figure at this specific level of the suit represents someone whose feeling has matured past the early volatile stages into something more grounded, more considered, more genuinely itself, rather than still in the process of becoming. What I am reading in this card is something I want to say specifically. This is not an impulsive return. This is not someone who has had a bad week and is reaching for what is familiar. This is someone who has done a genuine, real, extended period of their own internal work and who has arrived at the other side of that work with a clarity about what they want that has the quality of conclusion rather than impulse. The cup they are extending is not offered carelessly. It is offered with full awareness of what it is and what offering it costs. I also want to speak to the water element's connection to depth here, because the cup in this card is not empty or barely filled. It holds something real. What this person is bringing toward you has weight to it, the specific weight of genuine feeling that has been examined and tested and confirmed rather than simply felt and immediately expressed. The second card appeared in the position representing what this person understands about what happened between you, what they have come to see clearly in the period since. And this is the card I want to give specific attention to because I think it is the most important thing in the reading. This card shows a figure who has been still, withdrawn, in the specific posture of voluntary and productive solitude, carrying their own light into the interior space of their own experience rather than looking outward for answers. This is the card of deep, genuine inner work, of someone who has had the specific courage to sit with difficult truths about themselves rather than avoiding those truths through distraction or redirection, of a mind that has turned its attention inward and that has found things there worth examining, worth sitting with, worth changing. What I am sensing in this card about what this person has come to understand is something I want to be honest about. They understand their part, not in the performative sense of saying the right things to get you back, in the genuine sense of having identified through the specific discomfort of sustained self-examination the precise places where they did not show up the way the situation required, the specific choices they made that contributed to where things ended, the patterns in themselves that have not served them well, and that they are in the actual process of addressing rather than simply acknowledging. I also want to speak to what this card tends to indicate about the sincerity of someone's return, because I think it is the single most important thing to assess when someone comes back after a significant break. The figure in this card does not emerge from solitude quickly. The work it depicts is slow and requires genuine willingness to face what is found in the interior without immediately reframing it into something more comfortable. I am sensing this person has been in exactly this work for long enough that what they are bringing back toward you is informed by it in a way that would be evident in how they actually show up rather than only in what they say. Does this feel like it is describing someone real, Virgo? The specific quality of someone who has done something genuine with the time that has passed rather than simply enduring it? Let me know in the comments. I want to hear what is surfacing as you receive this. The third card arrived in the position I read as what this person is specifically hoping to build differently this time. And I want to describe it with the care it deserves because it speaks to something beyond simply wanting to resume what existed before. This card shows two figures seated together at a table, cups before them, the quality of someone sharing a meal in genuine ease, genuine companionship, the specific everyday warmth of two people who are simply comfortable in each other's presence. This is not the high drama of romantic intensity or the performance of connection for an audience. This is the ordinary, daily, deeply real version of being with someone, the version that exists in the Tuesday afternoon and the shared silence and the small habits that accumulate into something that belongs specifically to the two of you and to nobody else. What I am reading in this card about what this person wants to build is something I find genuinely significant. They are not picturing the early stages, the excitement and the electricity of the beginning. They are picturing the established version, the version that has texture and history and the specific richness that only accumulates over real time. They have been missing the ordinary you, the comfortable you, the you that exists when nothing is being performed and both of you are simply existing in each other's company. I also want to speak to the water element's presence in this card because the cups sitting on the table are full. This is not the image of something depleted or provisional. This is the image of genuine abundance in the relational domain, of two people who have enough of what they need and who are sharing it with each other in the specific ease of having done this enough times that the ease itself has become part of what they value about being together. Inhale with me, Virgo. Because the fourth card is the one that speaks most directly to what I want you to really hear, and I want you to be fully present for it. This card shows a single cup held by an unseen hand extended from above, with streams of water flowing from it and a dove descending toward it. The quality of something being offered that carries both abundance and something that feels, in the imagery, gently sacred. The beginning of its suit, the card that represents pure potential before any complication has entered, before any of the difficulty that subsequent cards describe has arrived. New beginning in its most undiluted, unqualified, genuine form. What I want to say about this card in this position is something that I think this entire reading has been building toward. What is being offered to you is not a continuation. It is not a resumption. It is something that has the quality of actual newness, even though it is coming from someone you already know, precisely because the person doing the offering has genuinely changed in the period between then and now in ways that matter, and because the things they are bringing are therefore genuinely different from what was there before, even if the feeling underneath them is the same one that was always there. I also want to speak to the dove in this card, because in traditional readings, the dove carries something, a small offering, an indication of peaceful intention arriving alongside the abundance rather than in spite of it. What this person is approaching you with is not simply the return of feeling. It is the return of feeling accompanied by something more, something earned rather than simply declared, something that took time to develop and that would not have been possible to bring before the time was taken. The cup is full and it is being extended towards you. I want to expand on what this particular card's position in its suit tells me about the quality of the new beginning being offered, because I think it is important. The first position in any suit represents potential in its most undiluted form before any complication has entered. In the context of a returning connection, I read this as the specific quality of someone who has genuinely stripped away the complications that accumulated the first time, the assumptions, the habits, the specific patterns of interaction that gradually solidified into something less alive than what they originally intended, and who is approaching you as though meeting for the first time in the sense that matters most, which is without the baggage of prior limitation, not without history, which would be impossible and would also not be desirable, because the history is part of what makes this specifically you and specifically them. but without the specific accumulated limitations that the history produced, starting fresh in the ways that actually matter while keeping what was real and good from what came before. I want to address something about how to receive what is coming, because I think your particular quality of mind creates a specific challenge in exactly this kind of moment that deserves to be named rather than simply navigated alone. When someone you have history with says they want to start over, the Virgo mind begins its assessment immediately, automatically, before you have even decided whether you want to assess it. The analysis is running. What specifically has changed? What evidence exists for the change beyond the claim of it? What the pattern was, and whether the elements that would need to be different are actually different, or whether this is the same dynamic with new language and therefore the same outcomes ahead. You cannot turn this off. It is how you are made, and it is, in most circumstances, one of your most valuable qualities. What I want to offer alongside the assessment, not instead of it, is this. The cards today are not describing someone who has simply decided to try saying different things and hopes you will not notice that the substance beneath the words is the same. What they are describing is someone who has genuinely, at some cost to themselves, done actual work. And the specific quality of that work, the willingness to sit in genuine solitude with genuine self-examination rather than performing insight, tends to produce actual change rather than the performance of it. I'm not asking you to abandon your assessment. Your assessment will serve you. I am asking you to let it run on the evidence that actually exists rather than on the assumption that the evidence cannot be what it appears to be. Sometimes people actually change. This feels like one of those times. The fifth card arrived in the position of what becomes possible if both of you step toward this genuinely, what is actually available on the other side of the start over. And I want to deliver it plainly because it is not ambiguous. This card shows a scene of genuine celebration, two figures moving together in joy inside a wreath of completion, the quality of something that has been hoped for finally being lived rather than only imagined. The number here sits at the completion of its suit, at the specific point where everything that the cups have been building across the entire sequence finally arrives at its fullest, most alive expression. This is not the excitement of something newly begun. This is the specific, deep, fully inhabited joy of something that has moved through every stage of its development and has arrived at a completeness that earlier stages could only point toward. What I am sensing this card is describing for what is genuinely possible between you, if both of you step toward this with the full intention of actually doing it, rather than hedging or protecting or keeping one foot back, is a quality of connection that contains the history between you rather than being burdened by it. That uses everything that happened, including the difficult parts, as the foundation for something that is specifically richer because of what it has already been through, that has the specific depth and texture that only time and genuine experience can produce. The start over this person is proposing is not a return to the beginning. It is an arrival at something that the beginning was always pointing toward, but that could not be reached without first passing through what came between. I also want to name something about what the celebration in this card looks like that I think is specifically meaningful here. The two figures are not celebrating because all difficulties are behind them. They are celebrating because they are together in the specific, alive way that only becomes possible after two people have been through something genuinely hard and have chosen each other on the other side of it. that specific quality of togetherness, of being chosen deliberately rather than arrived at by default, of having been through the thing and come back toward each other anyway, is part of what produces the specific joy this card depicts. It is not the joy of everything being easy. It is the deeper, more earned joy of something being chosen repeatedly, even when choosing it was not the path of least resistance. Before I close, I want to say something to you directly, Virgo, about what this moment is actually asking of you, because I think you deserve to hear it plainly rather than implied. It is asking you to consider being willing to hope for something again that you had perhaps quietly closed. Not to pretend the closing did not happen, not to skip over the part where you had to protect yourself by not wanting as much as you had wanted before, but to consciously, deliberately choose to reopen the door that the closing had shut. That is a specific kind of courage that is different from the courage to weather difficulty. It is the courage to want something again after having been hurt in the wanting. You are allowed to want this. You are allowed to let the fact that someone is coming back with something genuine in their hands mean something to you, even though it would have been simpler to remain closed, even though remaining closed would have felt safer, even though there is a part of you that has gotten reasonably comfortable with the door being shut and does not entirely trust the discomfort of reopening it. They are not asking you to be naive. They are not asking you to forget what happened or to pretend it was smaller than it was. They are asking you to believe in something that the cards today are confirming is real. That people sometimes do the actual work. That genuine change sometimes actually occurs. And that two people who genuinely matter to each other, who have been through something real together, who have the specific quality of history and knowing that takes time to build and cannot simply be manufactured with someone new, sometimes get a second chapter that is better than the first precisely because of what they learned in it. This feels like that. The question the reading ends on is not whether what they are bringing is real. The question is whether you are ready to receive it. If this reading landed somewhere that mattered, somewhere that feels specific to a situation you have been sitting with, please share it with a Virgo who might be standing at exactly this threshold and who needs to hear that what is being offered is genuine, and leave a comment. I want to hear what this brought up for you and where you are in this with the person you were thinking about while you listened. I read every single comment and I hold what is shared in this space with genuine care long after this video ends. Until next time, Virgo. Someone wants to start over, not because it is easy, because you are worth the difficulty of asking, and because what you could build together on the other side of this is something neither of you has ever had. That is worth the ask.